Hey everybody, welcome back to another video of Winamac Attack Hockey. I'm your host, Dom DeBomb, and I am joined today by Jake, the Snake Armstrong, and we are going to be starting a new series of NHL weekly updates where we will bring you all the news, standings, and some players to watch every week from the NHL. Jake, thanks for joining me today.
It's a pleasure.
All right, let's go ahead and jump in here. Our key headlines for this past week, starting off with Vince Dunn trade rumors. Jake, you have more for me on that one.
All right, so Vince Dunn has been a staple on that Blues defense for many years now. He's a solid young defender. He's very good. He can find the score sheet. But earlier this week, he was a healthy scratch for the Blues. And rumors were spreading about some trade rumors. Pittsburgh was mentioned. Brian Rust was an option. Also, Chris Letang mentioned from the Penguins before their GM was asked to resign. That was announced earlier this week. It was cited as personal reasons, later coming out that they did ask him. They weren't comfortable with getting rid of Letang and asked him to send his resignation to the team. Another option was Flyers' Travis Konechny, who was a healthy scratch earlier this week also. So something to keep an eye on as we go into the next week.
Yeah, for sure. And also, sticking with the St. Louis Blues, Vladimir Tarasenko is skating again, is that right?
Right, after 2 shoulder surgeries, it's nice to see him back on the ice. You don't know how that shoulder's going to hold up with his elite wrist shot. That's what he's made his name from, and if that shoulder can hold up, it'll be a huge boost for the Blues offense.
Yeah, especially trying to make another playoff push. All right, so next up, McDavid and Leon Draisaitl for the Edmonton Oilers continue to put points on the top 2 scorers in the league once again so far, but their record does not speak for that. Jake, what do you think Edmonton has to do here?
They're not good defensively. Some coaching changes may need to be made for that area. The goaltending's also very bad. They could take an approach such as the Islanders or Columbus, just keep shots off the net. Those 2 teams also don't have a lot of household names, but they win games because of their coaching strategy. They keep the pucks off the net, they make the goalie's job easy.
Right. All right, so let's do a quick recap of COVID for the week with the Capitals and the Blackhawks. Let's start with the Capitals. What happened there?
All right, so the Capitals were fined $100,000 by the league for breaking some COVID regulations. 4 players on the team had been in each other's hotel rooms while they were on a road trip. Those players being Alexander Ovechkin, their captain, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Ilya Samsonov, and Dmitry Orlov. They were all placed on COVID protocol and were not allowed to play the next 4 games.
I gotcha. So what about the Blackhawks? I heard that there have been some players also put in protocol and a practice was canceled.
Right, that practice being canceled. Some players that were put on the COVID protocol list were Boudin, Bachfist, DeBrincat, and Carpenter.
Nice, so pretty good variety there for Chicago. All right, so up next here, Kevin Fiala got a suspension earlier this week for a hit on Matt Roy from the LA Kings. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Really an unfortunate play. I don't think Fiala meant to send him into the boards. Roy lost his footing and they just sort of rode into the wall together, but regardless, it was a dangerous hit and Fiala should have been a little more responsible with where he was aiming that hit there.
Gotcha. All right, so 3-game suspension for Kevin Fiala. Also in news this week, on Thursday, Jimmy Howard retired from the NHL and has played his previous number of seasons with the Detroit Red Wings. So that was a little bit of a shocker to me anyway to hear this week. And also, the NWHL, the National Women's Hockey League's regular season has ended and they will be going into the postseason coming up soon. And then our big headline, just recently, Tony DeAngelo placed on waivers. Jake, you have more.
He's a very good offensive defender. I think the Rangers are going to miss him on the team. But he had an altercation with another teammate, that being goaltender Anton Georgiev. Apparently going back to the locker room after a tough game, there was some arguing, some shoving was done, and then it took Chris Kreider actually punching Tony DeAngelo to break it up, and the team obviously had to resolve this, so it was Tony DeAngelo that got put on waivers.
Wow. Do you suspect any teams or predictions of where he might go?
Any team really could take a chance on him. Pittsburgh has been looking for a defender for weeks now, so odds are it could be them.
All right, so moving on now to our standings so far. Let's start off with the Central. Guys, the Columbus Blue Jackets, after all the drama with Dubois, are leading the Central still. Tampa is following pretty closely, as expected. Dallas off to a great start, 4-1 start. Detroit and Chicago, though, are struggling, as many people did expect. Jake, do you have anything to add?
I think that pretty much fits what everyone was looking for. It's still a very close division. Anyone can make it. 4 teams from that division are going to be in the playoffs. There's no wild card this year, so really it's a 56-game season. You play 56 games, and we could see a variety of teams in the playoffs.
All right, perfect. Moving on to the East, the Capitals lead without a regulation loss, and they are followed closely by Boston and Philadelphia. Your thoughts on that?
As mentioned earlier, the Capitals have been without 4 of their top players, including their captain and their starting goaltender, and they were still finding the win column. So it could be a very, very good season for them. Philadelphia, also being led by their young goaltender Carter Hart, is also a top team in that division.
All right, and both New York teams are still continuing to struggle, but moving on to the West, Vegas has a slim lead over Minnesota and Colorado, with St. Louis in the hunt, a couple points behind. Jake, what do you think? What about Minnesota?
Minnesota is a team that typically sits in the middle of the pack. They could make the playoffs, but they also made a lot of acquisitions, and they sent a lot of players away this offseason, including their captain Mikko Koivu. So we'll have to see how their new team fits into the coaching scheme, and it's really time will tell how that team finishes this year.
Absolutely. So the North, the Canadian division as I like to call it, Toronto is in the lead with a spectacular record, and in second, right behind them, the Montreal Canadiens making a name for themselves, and Edmonton continuing to struggle, and Ottawa has 1 win so far. Jake, any thoughts?
It's pretty much the story of the Canadian teams. Toronto's always a playoff team, and Ottawa has not been very good as of late. That whole division is their wild card teams. Year to year, you've got Vancouver, Winnipeg. They typically sit in the wild card. This year, 4 of them are going to make the playoffs. So it should be a tight division and a fun one to watch this year.
Absolutely, it's been a lot of fun thus far. All right, so moving on to our players to watch. Whether some players are playing just out of their mind, or some that are struggling that really shouldn't be. The first one I have on the list is Kevin Lankinen for the Chicago Blackhawks goaltender. Jake, how has he been doing over there for the Hawks?
Goaltending on the Blackhawks has been a dark spot since they lost Robin Leonard and Corey Crawford last year. It's good to see young Lankinen come up, play really well for them. It'll be nice to see how he finishes the year.
Absolutely. Another one I have on here is Kopitar from the Kings. He's been a star for them for a long time and kind of went quiet the past couple of years, but he's leading the league in assists right now. How important is that for the Kings?
They've got a very young team. Kopitar is a veteran in this league. He knows how to play, he knows how to play the right way, and he knows how to win games. That's huge for a young team like the LA Kings.
Absolutely. And the last person I have on my list, at least, is Seth Jones, who has 1 point so far and a -7 rating. Do you think that speaks for his level of play right now?
I think Seth Jones is a very good defenseman. He's paired with Zach Werenski, who put up 20 goals last year. So it could be part of his line pairings. They could be playing with things there. I think Tortorella knows how to play him and how to get the most out of him.
Absolutely. All right, so your key players to watch for this upcoming week.
Jamie Benn is coming off of injury. The Stars captain could lead them to a very good season. They've only got 1 loss so far this year. I know they started late, but with Jamie Benn coming back into the lineup, that would be big for their on-ice performance. Also, Jack Eichel, who has the new acquisitions of Taylor Hall and Eric Stahl on his team this year. He's putting up points. He has 11 points in 10 games, but he only has 2 goals. He can't seem to put the puck in the back of the net himself, and once he gets it going, that'll be huge for Buffalo as they try to get into the playoffs this year.
Absolutely. Well, that does it for this week's NHL update. Thank you for joining us. We will see you again next week with more headlines, players to watch, and a standings update. We'll see you next time on Winamac Attack Hockey.